Welcome back to the channel, guys, and we're heading back to the Civil War. If you haven't already, please like and subscribe, and please leave comments and suggestions down below for future battle reports. So this week we are refighting the Battle of Bartletts Farm, 1863. I couldn't actually find much information online, so I think this may actually be a battle which they've made up for the book, although I'm not 100% sure, so if you know better than me, please comment below. So yeah, I've based it off of the Glory Hallelujah supplement book, and although numbers are slightly smaller, I have to carry all my stuff over to play at different locations, so I didn't quite have enough room to do every brigade at full strength, but both sides are proportionally accurate in numbers. So according to the information, this is set in the Western Theatre and is a battle similar to Chickamauga. I think that's how you pronounce it anyway. So it should be fun. So the Union division started off around the farm. It's quite a small division, so the Confederates thought, we can smash them and destroy them before any reinforcements can get in. So the battlefield itself is it's mostly flat with a slight hill at the back, quite a lot of forest, and a river/stream running through the center of the board, with the farm sort of as the centerpiece. At the start of the battle, the Confederates come on in force with their 4 brigades, and they're fighting against the 1 division and 2 brigades of the Union. Union commander split his troops up and put his smaller brigade defending the farm and his slightly larger one on the hillside, just to try and stop the Confederate forces from flanking on that wing. Artillery situated on the hill and in between the 2 fields. So turn 2 saw the Confederates just advancing in general. Both sides were putting quite a lot of artillery shots onto each other, but there weren't many casualties, to be honest. Most of it went wide. Union commander did move his left or his 2nd brigade into line, but on the right wing he did nothing, just left his troops as they were. The Confederates did advance through the cornfield, trying to use a bit of cover before they opened up into the open area. On the road, the Confederate brigade did make good progress, but then they went into the withering volley fire of the Union, as did their troops trying to cross the stream. So they did start to take quite a few casualties, and the Union suffered very little this turn. The Confederate player knew that there were going to be reinforcements arriving at some point, but didn't know which turn they were going to be coming in on. So we decided that we would roll after turn 2, and we would roll a dice, and on a 6 on turn 3, you get a reinforcement, 5 or 6 on turn 4, etc. And then for each of the brigades that were held off table, we would again just roll to see which one would come on, and we'd roll to see which of the 2 roads they would come in on. So the Union did get their 1st brigade of reinforcements this turn, so that was 3 extra regiments of infantry, which they were going to sorely need. The Confederates were still pushing forwards to try and cross the stream and make some form of battle line, although 1 brigade basically got halted and became disorganized trying to get through it, so that Confederate right really stalled quite badly. Troops in the center were putting volleys back now, but were taking a pounding because of the artillery straddling the hill, and the small brigade on the left was more just a holding action to try and pin the Union forces so they couldn't go over. But 2 regiments against 3 in defensive positions was never going to end particularly well. As you can see, the Union cannon has prime line of fire straight down that road and was blasting those units badly, and in the center the 2nd Union gun was almost in grape shot range. So turn 4 again was much the same. Confederates pushed forwards on all sides, but again the Union now got their next brigade of reinforcements. So all along the line the Confederates were becoming whittled down by casualties, and their numbers were proportionally falling as more and more Union reinforcements arrived on the field. This brigade did make it across the stream, but was stopped at the fence line. Over here, Confederates had one regiment break as the rest of the brigades started to try and filter across, but because of their disorganisation they weren't able to do much more than just get across the river, whilst the Union were able to just pour volley after volley into them. So the Confederates were taking lots of casualties and started to have to take quite a few morale checks, which luckily at this stage, for the most part, they were handling quite well. In the centre, one of the regiments did break, unfortunately, so both of them were withdrawn back to the cornfield. The cannon got a grape shot blast off onto them, that's what broke their morale. And the reinforcements left their artillery piece there, but the infantry marched on down the road. On the right side of the battlefield, the battle started to rage now. The forces of the Confederates had mostly crossed the river, and so now there was a lot of small arms fire being exchanged, but that gun on the hill and the gun in the valley was still really doing their bit masterfully, chomping through the Confederates. Turn 5 saw the Confederate troops on the left rally, but they weren't in any state to go forwards anymore, so they held their position. On the right wing, it was a full slow advance for the Confederates, just enough that they could keep firing as they marched, and trying to use their numbers, which they still had superiority of, just to their advantage. But again, this turn saw more reinforcements for the Union, and so within the next few turns it was kind of going to be do or die time. So yeah, both sides were biting their nails, waiting to see what was going to happen. The Union were trying to push all of their reinforcements over to the right wing, but would they get there in time? That was the question. Confederates did try to mass their artillery together to try and blast back the reinforcements coming down, although they were inflicting heavy casualties. I feel it was slightly too little too late to do much to overthrow the battle itself. Or should I say, change the outcome of the battle. The Confederates now managed to close with the Union on the right wing, and that was a tough and tight-run thing. Both sides lost a lot of casualties, but the Union were starting to get forced back. So all along the line, bayonets were clanging, short-range fire. It was a pretty bloody turn, but you can see how the Union line is starting to get pushed. Unfortunately for the Confederates, Union reinforcements are coming through the trees. The troops who had broken on the left, Confederates that is, took a couple more hits from the artillery and they dissolved, so they were gone. In the centre we had another regiment of Confederates break. So overall it wasn't looking too good for the Confederates, although they could still possibly pull out a win, because we use rules that when a unit breaks, any unit next, like touching it or behind, has to take a morale check. So theoretically, if that one fails, then its neighbours have to take a morale check, and then their neighbours, so you could have the whole wing collapse if you're unlucky. So it's still anyone's game at this point, but it is literally last roll of the dice for both sides. The Confederates are pushing everywhere, but now in the centre the Union reinforcements who were coming down the road ploughed into their flank after a close range volley, which was decimating to the Confederate forces. So this turn did see quite a few bases removed and a lot of casualties sustained. Another one of the Union troops on the far side did break after basically getting hit by artillery for the last 8 turns. On the right, the Confederates they were just too spent, so they broke and started withdrawing down the hill. Yeah, there was just too much Union fire coming in, too many Union troops. There was nothing more for them to do but try and get out. So with that, it was pretty well the end of the battle. The Confederates didn't have enough troops to do anything more. The Union troops, although they have more bases on the table, when you actually look at the casualties and the numbers within each of their units, they were very close to the edge themselves. So it was a very close run thing, but it was a decisive Union victory. Anyway, hope you enjoyed the battle report, and I'll see you next time.